There are a couple other curve editing tools that I want to show you that are here on the shelf. Let me go ahead and use my EP curve tool to drop another curve. I'll create two curves here. And if I select both of these curves, this tool here will attach them, and it will determine where it will attach based on its proximity to each other. I can change the blending bias. I can change how it attaches by clicking some of these attributes here. Okay, so it will attach them based on proximity, and then I can decide at which points I want to attach them together. And it creates a third curve out of the first two, which are still in the scene, and now I have this third curve. And this is important to note that the curves are, you can see with this curve 1 and curve 2, I have this node which is attached curve to these curves. So even though and here I have in my nodal network for this attached curve, which is the combination of the two, I retain information that connects it to the first two original curves. So if I make any changes, if I move this curve within space or I edit its shape, it will affect oh, it won't let me edit this shape any longer. I can move it. Let's see if I can edit the control vertices here. Yeah, so it should also be affecting, right, this curve. Let me show you what that looks like. It's being a little bit farther apart. So they are connected to each other in a way that that there's still the shape of this attached curve is being informed by the first two curves. It's not completely its own independent object. And that's something that we can kind of exploit and play with when we start to make surfaces from these curves. I can go ahead and delete these curves if I'd like. And now I just have my attached curve. If I want to use, I can select an edit point here, and I can use this tool, which will detach the curve at that point. Meaning now I've broken this one curve into two different curves. So actually this hasn't retained that original attached curve, it's just created two separate curves that are both detached from each other. This is where I can add a little bit of curve material based on whatever my options are. As you can see, it's kind of building here. This tool will create a secondary curve that is an incremental distance away from the other, which could be useful if we're building if we're building a curve that we want to have that we want to appear to be kind of a thin surface, but I want to have material information applied to both sides. So this is something that's useful. I can add points to my curve by clicking this Add Point tool. And you can see here that it's also adding points to that secondary curve that follows the original curve. And then I have this editing tool, which allows me to freely select a point on any curve and change its placement. So that's what some of these tools do for curves. So right now I'm working in top mode. I'm looking through my top orthographic camera But I can easily work from the side or the front and also make curves that are like perpendicular to the original curve. So curve 1 and curve 2 here you can see in space. Looks something like this. And once I've placed those curves, it's very easy for me to position them. But in order to draw them within Maya, first I need to choose an axis plane in order to, one of the axes planes, to place the curve on. So in the next video, let's start to build some surfaces from these curves.